We made it! Almost 40 light years. Kind of amazing we made it this far. Computer, what's going on down there on that planet? What are all those lights? Those didn't show up on the reports.
The lights are the product of the native species. They devised small containers that coax tiny particles, electrons, to dance in a controlled path through fragile threads or crystalline plates. When enough of these electrons collide with certain materials, they excite them, making them shed packets of radiant energy. That is the source of the lights.
Oh, crap! That means they're intelligent! This kind of puts a dent in the whole colonization plan. Do you think maybe they'd let us share? Do they seem friendly?
Recent scarring of the planet's surface due to a series of global conflicts, including the presence of crude nuclear fission explosive devices, indicate that they are not, in fact, friendly.
Oh, come on, they can't be that bad. You know what? I think I'll go take the scouting pod and have a look around. I'll be back in a few days. Don't wait up.
Cloning complete. Welcome back.
They destroyed the pod! Can you believe it? I was being friendly and everything.
I warned you. While you were gone, I collected some radio signals and did some research. They seem to be experiencing a high tension period, culturally. Maybe it would be best just to observe for a while and wait until they're ready to handle visitors. Perhaps slow exposure through video messages.
I guess. We're gonna be waiting a while, though, as their technology is a little unsophisticated. Well, I guess we could revisit this later. By the way, is there any word from the homeworld?
Yes. Apparently, the home planet was destroyed by a creature named Monster Zero. All Explorer craft are currently designated independent contractors. Evacuation status unknown.
Hello there. My name is Nyralith, and it's good to finally meet you. Hopefully, our encounters will go better than the last time I met with Earthlings, or at least down on your planet anyway. So, yeah. This is my first broadcast in quite some time. So, let's go ahead and get to know each other, alright? So, first off, a lot of you guys are probably wondering, where are you from? Well, I'm from this little cluster of stars right here. If you can take a look at the picture there, the ones in the red circle. This is the Zeta Reticuli star system. And that circled right there is the stars Zeta 1 and Zeta 2. It's a binary solar system. So, basically, I come from a different cluster of planets than you. So, the stars in Zeta 1 and Zeta 2, These are G2 type stars, which means they're of the same class as your sun. Isn't that nice? However, Nyralith 7, which is my home planet, it was the 4th planet from Zeta 2. So that means it's considerably further away from your planet, at least further away from its star, which has a few impactful, shall we say, qualities. It makes my life a little different than yours. So, it's about 39 light years away, almost 40. I like rounding up. Nyralith 7 is about twice the distance from its star as Earth is from the Sun. So, as a result, it can be pretty cold by Earth standards. About 50 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius on average. About 1 year on Nyralith is about 2 years for Earth. And a lot of our heat comes not from the sun, but from geothermal pockets in the planet's oceans. So literally, it's the molten core that we get most of our heating from. That and whatever energy sources we can find on the surface. We'll talk about that later. Now, unfortunately, our planet was destroyed by Monster Zero, so all of my people are unfortunately exiled. I don't know how many of them there are left, but I hope a lot of them made it. It's a good chance that they did, though, since most of us are explorers by nature. We don't spend a lot of time close together. So now the big question is, what exactly am I, now that you know where I come from? Well, as you may have guessed, I'm definitely not from Earth. I'm called a Zayton, although you guys gave us that name. I know this because, well, I watch a lot of your broadcasts, and I've seen a lot of your movies, and so based on things that I was able to look up about what you guys think life is like on our planet, you guys gave us this name, and I thought, well, it's a pretty good name, so let's go with that. Now, just like your people, we evolved from the ocean life, right? Initially, the small worms that eventually gave rise to all the vertebrate life would form the muscle tissues that creates the basis for a spinal column. And this, of course, will lead to lots of vertebrates. Now, like you guys, we also still have invertebrates kind of crawling around. Hopefully, none in my spaceship at the moment. You may have noticed I have kind of big eyes with big irises, and this is because light's very dim where I'm from. And as a result, the light means it needs to be focused kind of a lot, so our eyes are designed just for that. We're also shorter on average. I'm considered actually very tall at 5'5". So I would be unusually tall for my species, but the rest of us are pretty short by and large. We also have larger chest cavities for larger lungs, and one of the reasons for this is that our atmosphere is only 12% oxygen, which is compared to your 21% oxygen. So that means we have to parse through a lot more other chemicals that our bodies have to intake. This also means we have deeper voices on average, as I'm sure you might have guessed. This is not really a problem for me, except that when I'm walking around in your atmosphere without some kind of a rebreather or a gas mask, I tend to get tired very quickly because the oxygenated content it doesn't it doesn't give me all the energy I need. It just kind of makes me hyper energetic, and then my oxygen burns twice as fast, and my metabolism can't keep that up. So speaking of metabolism, we don't eat that much. We eat maybe one big meal every 2 Earth days. But boy, do we make the most of it. I sure am a big fan of food, and I'll tell you more about that soon. We're also omnivores, so, we eat all kinds of things. We eat plants, we eat meat, we eat bugs sometimes. Just like you guys sometimes eat bugs. Hey, I'm looking at you, shrimp. Okay. I should also say I'm a clone. Okay, now what does that mean? Well, you see, I don't know exactly when we started doing this, but because our species does not propagate very often, we have a tendency to have very low population numbers. And so when somebody who's learned something really, really important dies, they took that knowledge with them. So we created a safeguard. Now, whenever a Zetan dies, our consciousness is uploaded to a clone back at our ships. Now you see why I'm not too worried about Monster Zero having killed off all of our people. As long as you had facilities off-world, you should be golden. But that does mean that we live very, very far apart from each other. And so we tend not to gather too closely together. Now, I should say that I am the 217th copy. That's because I'm very clumsy. It's actually a very high number, considering how long I've been around. So, you know, just trying to make it to the next iteration without dying would be nice. The other thing is, I look a little different than other Zetans might as well, because as I'm sure you guys are well familiar, whenever you clone stuff, it creates copy errors, right? So these copy errors can create mutations and problems. Thankfully, human species tend to have very compatible DNA, so we just borrow some DNA from you guys every once in a while to sort of fill in the gaps and correct any errors. But I assure you, it's all voluntary. The stuff about like abducting people and doing things to them against their will, that's whoever's doing that. It's not me. But you know, these exchanges tend to be very brief, and you know, the subjects tend not to remember them. It's for the best, honestly. But as you can see, there are some notable side effects as I become a little bit more human-like in every iteration, which is fine. It also means I can see a little bit better in your atmosphere with how much light you guys are bathed in all the time. I don't have to wear sunglasses these days. As for how old I am, on Nyralith I would be considered 21. But on Earth, obviously, 1 year equaling 2, I would be 42 years of age. Now, of course, this also creates additional problems since our people get cloned fairly often, and we have a tendency to live in cryo-sleep and stuff like that for very long stretches of time, especially when traveling the galaxy. So, when we calculate our age, we only calculate the active years, not the years we spend in cryo-sleep. So that's why, even though I was probably here for maybe over a century, I'm only about 42 years old in Earth years. My birthday is June 21st, also the summer solstice. So yes, we just celebrated it not too long ago, but you know, I'm sure we'll be able to celebrate the next one, you and me together. I am a female of the Zetan species, but like I mentioned, I don't really look very much like other Zetans do, because natural Zetans, without DNA helpers, they don't have a lot of sexual dimorphism. That is to say, they look kind of like each other. There isn't a lot of differences between the two of the sexes. Now, how did I get here? Well, this is my craft. You can get a good picture of it here thanks to Cambot using rocket number 9 to take a good look at what my spaceship looks like. So there it is. We use artificial intelligence systems to navigate throughout the galaxy because even though I'm a pretty good pilot, I can't make all the little micro adjustments that is needed to keep a ship like that floating, especially with how fast these ships travel even at impulse speeds. So, as a result, what has to happen is we use the computer, which has sensors that help it guide itself through space. And that means we don't run into collisions that basically obstructions that are out there that happen before we can even see them, right? You don't want to zip into somebody else's solar system right on top of an asteroid, right? Now, we also use helium-3 for our warp drive, and we use methane for the interplanetary travel. That is, when I mentioned earlier, the impulse engines. Methane's fairly easy to come by. In fact, you can skim most of the major gas planets and get a healthy heaping of it. Helium-3 is a little bit more difficult to come by, but our planet detection systems tell us which planets are likely to have access to helium-3, so we can just go straight to the sources that we need. Now, the speed at which we can travel, I want to be very careful about how I say this. Although we can travel 1 light year in the span of 1 year, that does not mean that we travel at the speed of light. Not only would that be very dangerous for a being like myself or you, I also think it's one of those sort of intergalactic space laws that you kind of can't break. The physics of the universe does not allow for that, except for certain, shall we say, pockets of subspace. So the way our ships travel is through extra-dimensional pockets. Now, in order to sort of explain how that works, it's kind of like this. To explain how we can travel as fast as we do without traveling the speed of light, it's kind of like this. So, looking at this chart here, imagine that you're in the little ship that's right there, and you have to travel all the way from your current location to the blue dot in the center there. So how are you going to do that? Well, if you have to follow the barriers, right, starting where the ship is at, then you travel all the way through these little spaces, and that could take you a very long time because you got to do all the curves, all the tubes, the distances, all of that stuff has to happen, right? So that can take time. However, it would be faster if you could just go over the barriers, right? So basically, what our warp engines do is they fold space-time and create these subdimensions. All right? You guys are very close to getting it. You guys will figure it out pretty soon. It has to do with basically the subatomic particles. With what you guys are talking about in string theory right now, it's kind of at that same level. We can use the superposition of atoms to create different distance pockets, right? It's sort of like, the best way I can explain it is, if you have 2 dots on opposite ends of a paper, you could travel across the paper, or you could fold the paper and make the 2 dots closer together. And that's kind of what our warp engines do, is they basically create these sub-dimensions that you can cruise through, and it makes the traveling go much faster. Okay, so now that you know sort of what I am and where I came from, now let's talk personally. Let's talk about what do I like. And I like a lot of different things, so this might take a while. Alright, so first off, I love cooking. I love cooking lots of stuff, and especially Earth cuisine. I've been watching a lot of your videos. I've been watching a lot of what you guys make on YouTube and other places, and you guys make such amazing, tasty food. So I've been trying to learn how to do a lot of that stuff. I also like certain kinds of cleaning. Cleaning is a very fun, cathartic activity at times, and when you finish cleaning something and you make things feel nice and cozy, well, I just like that feeling quite a bit, you know. I also like video games, obviously. Video games are pretty fun. They're things that I like to do basically as hobbies. I'll talk about them more later because there's a big section dedicated to video games. But I'm also very much into tabletop role-playing games like D&D 5e and Pathfinder 2e. I was able to join, very anonymously, some human-controlled Dungeon Master Spaces, and I had a blast. I think the way you guys like to have fantasy adventures is just amazing, and so I'd like to join in that too. I also like watching funny animal videos, especially about cats. As you guys will come to know, I love cats. Cats are amazing. It's not that dogs are bad. I'm not like an anti-dog person, but I think that cats are just the best. I also like watching VTubers, obviously. I think VTubing is a very fun, wholesome activity. You get to learn a lot about different kinds of people. You get to become parts of different kinds of communities, and I guess I kind of want that for myself. I also like learning about history and philosophy a lot. I like learning about different kinds of things that have to do with your point of existence, or maybe about the way time functions, or about, you know, what's the best way to treat a new species of people that feel emotions but can't talk. Like, for example, cats. How much do cats register on our sort of moral community, right? Because I think they rate quite highly, but we'll talk about that. To give you an example of something neat that I learned about in history, actually, there's this guy named Green, and he wrote a book called Everything is Tuberculosis. And in this book, he talks about how World War I was caused by tuberculosis, and I'll explain that here in a sec. So basically, you guys probably already know that the spark that lit the flames of World War I was this guy named Gavrilo Princip getting to assassinate the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, right? Well, the group he was a part of was called the Band of the Black Hand, and this Band of the Black Hand wanted to change the course of European history, and they certainly did. But the reason why they chose to go about it the way that they did is all the members of the Black Hand, they had tuberculosis. And so because they knew that they would die of tuberculosis and they didn't want to die a horrible tuberculosis death, they decided to make their deaths have meaning. And so they thought that they would use their lives and sacrifice themselves for what they perceived to be a greater cause. So that's the kind of historical stuff I love to learn about. Just kind of neat how that happened. So, moving on. All right. Movies and media. Oh my gosh, I am such a big fan of Godzilla movies. Godzilla movies are easily the best. I've seen every Godzilla movie, all of them. I consume them all the time, and I'm looking forward to the new ones that are going to be coming out soon too. I'm also a big fan of like sci-fi alien movies and stuff like that. There was obviously the Alien saga, and Predator and Predator 2. Those are fun movies. But I also really like, District 9? I thought that was a great movie. Just lots of great alien movies all around. Signs I thought was fun and kind of scary. I also am a big fan of anime. I like isekai anime, where a person goes from living sort of a normal everyday life in this world and gets transported by some magical means to a different dimension, right? So that essentially means the Chronicles of Narnia are isekai books. I also like shoujo anime generally. Those are pretty fun, easy to look at. I like slice of life animes because nothing bad ever truly happens, and it's about relationships, and I think those are a lot of fun. I also like some magical girl stuff. Like I think Sailor Moon is great. I really liked Revolutionary Girl Utena. There's a few other magical girl series here and there, but I don't like all of them by default. Some of them can be a little difficult to watch. Like, I don't really care for Cardcaptor Sakura. I know, and if that was your favorite and I just stepped all over it, I'm so sorry. I'm sure it's good. I can't watch it. I also like some action animes. A lot of them can be a little overmuch. I do like the ones that have a really good hook. I mean, I'm always gonna like Dragon Ball Z because that was the first real anime that I watched from start to finish. So of course there's gonna be a special place in my heart for that. But you know, there's also some other good ones. I've watched Yu Yu Hakusho as well. I thought that was a really good one. Let's see, TV shows. Well, obviously, I love Star Trek. I've seen the ones that I listed here, the original series, The Next Generation, DS9, and Voyager. I've not seen the newer ones, though. I've not seen Enterprise. I've not seen the new cartoon they made. I know there's one other one that I'm forgetting about, but yeah, I haven't seen those. I've also seen tangentially lots of Doctor Who. So I've seen almost all the Doctor Who series that started in 2000, and I think I stopped watching in the middle of Peter Capaldi's run, so I'll have to pick that back up. I'm also a big fan of series like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Dexter, because I like detective stories, and in a lot of ways Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and Dexter are like reverse detective stories in a way. I'm also a big fan of Mystery Science 3000. I started watching during the sci-fi run, but I went back and watched a lot of the Comedy Central run, and it was just so much fun to watch. And I also love the new ones with Jonah. I think those are pretty good too. I'm also a big fan of Sherlock. Yes, I know a lot of people don't really like it, and there's a lot of good reasons why the show is a little weird and dumb, but I still like it anyway, at least up until the death of a certain character that I will not spoil here. All right. I also really like the Marvel movies. I think the Marvel movies are very fun. I think they're not all great, right? They can't all be great, but they crank out so many movies. They can't all be, wonderful. But a good enough chunk of them are. I like detective noir films. So, for example, Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. I think that's a great movie. I'm also a big fan of The Third Man with Orson Welles. It's such a good film, very classic. The Long Goodbye. There's so many really good film noir movies that are detective centered that I highly recommend it. There's a number of them with just Humphrey Bogart in there, so if you just look up a lot of Humphrey Bogart stuff, there's some good ones in there, especially that are focused on like detective stuff like Sam Spade and all that. Philip Marlowe, those kinds of characters. I'm also a big fan of John Wick. John Wick action films are a lot of fun, and so I recently saw the last one, or I guess I should say the most recent one, since I guess they're going to be making more of them. I'm also a big fan of the Matrix series. I think that they're pretty good. The anime is actually surprisingly good. I have to go back and rewatch that, but it's when I think back, and I didn't really care for it that much back in the day when it came out, but now that I think about it, maybe it deserves a rewatch. And of course, I guess my favorite movie of all time is Godzilla 1954. And I just now thought something I didn't mention on here. I also really like samurai films. I like samurai films, and by extension I like old style spaghetti westerns, and I think both of those have a really good place in my heart, although they're not mentioned here. I also love meme culture. I think that meme culture is neat. I don't always understand it. I'm not always going to understand, but I try. No cap, guys. No cap, right? All right. So I also like to play lots of games. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm mostly a PC gamer, but that doesn't mean that I haven't played console games. But here's basically a genre breakdown of the games that I like to play. I like to play like third-person and first-person shooters. I think they're a lot of fun. Let's see. I like the retro games a lot. I played a lot of the old Heretic. And interestingly enough, Heretic bridges both first and third person, because the first game, Heretic 1, was a lot of fun because it was like a first-person shooter but set in medieval times, and then Heretic 2 was an over-the-shoulder third-person sort of action shootery type thing, and I think that was a really good mix. I think they did a great job with that game. Maybe I'll play that one too if I can find my old discs. Oh no, maybe I can't. Oh well. I will get back to that. I do like playing lots of RPGs and JRPGs. Final Fantasy, just absolutely the GOAT as far as role-playing games are concerned. But I also like things like Skyrim and Morrowind and, you know, lots of old Elder Scrolls stuff. And there's a couple of RPGs I want to play with you guys sometime soon. There's also MOBAs. I don't really play MOBAs competitively. I usually play against the bots. I'm so sorry. I'm the same way with like, what is it? I forget what they call character shooters or something like that. Like the genre that Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch falls into. I forget the specific name of that, but those are fun. But I generally like to play against bots. Sometimes I'll play competitively. Who knows? Maybe I'll play against people on channel if it makes you guys smile. We'll see. Excuse me. I also really like bullet hell games. I think a lot of bullet hell games are fun. I like reverse bullet hell games even more. Like Vampire Survivors. Oh my god, that game is so much fun, and it's really cheap. It's like the ground floor. Getting in on the ground floor of that game, it's like $1. It's like $1, and it's so much fun. I like roguelike games, but certain kinds of roguelike games, because I feel like some roguelike games really lean into the difficulty settings a little too much, and I just don't like games that are that difficult. I'll talk about that more later. I also like side-scrolling beat-em-up games like Double Dragon and stuff like that. I like puzzle games, I like puzzle games like what you call her, the Match 3 game. It's like gems or something, columns, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's like Candy Crush. Actually, Candy Crush 2. But yeah. So here are some of the consoles I used to have. I had a Sega Genesis. Now, of course, it's not to say I didn't have access to earlier ones. I had access to an Atari 2600 and a ColecoVision, but those weren't really my consoles. I kind of borrowed them for a little bit, but the first one that I really got was the Sega Genesis. I got a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo later. My first game that I got was for the Sega Genesis was Sonic the Hedgehog. It came with the console. It was a lot of fun. And I played the crap out of it. I became a huge Sonic fan, although I haven't played a lot of the more recent Sonic games. I think the last 3D Sonic game that I beat was maybe Sonic Generations, and that's when I kind of stopped. Let's see. I also had a Game Gear. Yes, Game Gear, the Sega thing, not the Game Boy. Game Gear. I also had a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and I borrowed a 4. I also have a Wii U that I like a lot. Lots of really different games. There's Zelda Hyrule Warriors for Wii U that I'm a big fan of. Just so much fun, that game. I've also played a lot of the traditional Zelda games, obviously, too, yes. The Nintendo DS. I think one of the best games I got for the Nintendo DS was Advance Wars Dual Strike, which was also so much fun. But boy, howdy, you gotta grind that game out if you want to get all the gear and all the costumes and stuff like that. But I did it, so I just loved it to pieces. Let's see. I love cats. Cats are great. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't have anything against dogs, but cats are so majestic and they're so sweet, and at the same time, they don't force themselves to like you. Like, you could just feed them and be nice to them, and they may not always like you, but when they choose you, it's just the greatest feeling in the world. And so, there's something about that I find magical. Also, their independence is great. I just like that about them. I like also the casual enjoyer status. I like that not everything has to be a competition. I like that we don't all have to be fanatics about things. We can just like stuff, you know? It's totally fine to just like things. I also like creepy videos. I like videos about creepy things, like ghost videos and cryptids and stuff like that. I like to watch creepy videos about things like that, so, maybe we'll do something like that on this channel at some point, where we'll just sit back and watch some creepy videos together. I also really like old commercials. Now, the cutoff for me about old commercials is probably the 80s and 90s. I didn't really watch television before that time, and I started watching in the 90s and the late 80s, but after that it kind of tapered off too. So really, those are the only commercials I have any kind of memory of. Now, what kinds of food do I like? Well, I definitely love chicken. Chicken is at the top of my list. It is a superfood. It is the best food. I love me some chicken. I think it's just delicious. And second only to that is rice. But I gotta watch it with the rice because I found out recently that rice does not do well for my Zayton composition. I'll have to make some DNA adjustments maybe to get it to be a little bit better, but the rice doesn't agree with me always. No carbohydrate does, but I'll figure a way around it someday. I'm also a big fan of pizza, yes, with pineapple too. The classic pepperoni pizza is a very good pizza, but I'm more of a supreme person. I like lots of crispy, crunchy veggies that have been cooked to perfection on my pizzas. I also really like sushi. And I know that sushi is a specific thing, but it's also a catch-all term, and I mean that in the sort of broader sense. I like things that you can get at a sushi restaurant. I think they're just delicious. I also really like crispy salads where the lettuce is fresh and all that stuff, and where it's the good part of the lettuce. It's not the core. I don't know why people keep putting core in salads. They don't taste good. It's just not a good way to have a salad. I mean, it's edible, right? I also prefer vinaigrette dressing. I know a lot of people are like ranch or nothing, and it's like, yeah, vinaigrette dressing is my thing. I also like vinaigrette dressing with like blue cheese crumbles. It's really good. I'm also a big fan of ham and Swiss sandwiches. I know that's very basic, but hey, there's a room for basic in everything that we do. I think it being basic is what makes it good. It's just something simple you can have anytime. I'm also a big fan of fast food burgers. I know I shouldn't be. I'm not going to name any brands at this time, but there is at least one fast food brand that I really like every single time. I am also a big fan of tacos and burritos. I also, it's not listed here, I like enchiladas and tamales, and I think that they're just delicious. And, of course, they're just a big mixture of lots of different things that I like, lots of different flavors, and spicy too, which I like spicy food. I like miso soup as well. I think it's very easy to make good miso soup, and it lasts you for a long time, and it's got good vegetables in it, and maybe if you can put chicken in it sometimes. So you're not breaking any rules of putting chicken in miso soup. You can do that. You're allowed. I like steaks as well. I like really good cuts of steak too. Is steak better than chicken? Yes and no. Because I think when it comes to steak, right, like the big deal with steak is in order for it to be something better than chicken, in order for it to be something I would prefer over chicken, it has to be a really good cut. A really good cut of steak to me is better than chicken. However, I mean, how many opportunities are you going to get for that, right? Let's see. Oh, yeah, and I like fried eggs on everything. Just fried eggs. They're just absolutely delicious. You can't not have enough fried eggs on things. I love fried eggs on burgers. I like fried egg. If I could put fried eggs on salad and make it make sense, I'd probably do that too. Now my drink list is significantly smaller. I like water and coffee. That's it, just water and coffee. I don't drink a lot of sodas, and even when I do, it's usually I don't finish them because they're very sweet. So I tend not to like overly sugared drinks like that. Tea would probably also go in this category, but unsweet tea. I like unsweet tea. I think sweet tea is a very sweet thing, and I just can't handle that. I'm also a big fan of these kinds of snacks. I like cheese snacks, and that ranges for everything from actual real cheese that you cut up into squares to, like, Cheetos and things like that. I like Pocky. Cashews are delicious. Dried seaweed snacks. If you've never had those, you should definitely try them. If you like the sea, if you like seafood, you might like dried seaweed. I also like a dried squid. I think dried squid is delicious. I'm a big fan of also dark chocolate for a snack. Whatchamacallit is a bar I was recently introduced to. I'd heard about it for a while, but then I recently tried it and I'm just like, what? This is my new favorite candy bar. So I like whatchamacallits. I'm also a big fan of soft pretzels. Hard pretzels are good, but they're not my preference. A lot of hard pretzels are crunchy, yes, and they need a lot of extra stuff, but soft pretzels, oh my god, that's a whole experience. It's a whole vibe, as they say. Alright, so what do I dislike? I don't like spiders, centipedes, and roaches. I respect them. They're very good survivors. They're very interesting to learn about sometimes, but I just don't want them near me. I am so sorry. I just don't like them very much. I don't like corn. Interestingly enough, I love corn products. I think corn products are great. Corn chips, corn tortillas. There's lots of great corn starch. Hey, that's a really good additive in a lot of your food if you need to like thicken stuff up. But corn by itself, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on that. I also dislike really hard games. I'm sorry, but if it has a huge learning curve, I just can't do it. I can't be in it. It's not something I can see myself doing, just because I feel like there's just no reason. There's no reason for it to be that hard or for me to have to learn it that much. I mean, some games will suck me in and it's really good. Like, for example, I think it's the Dead House, Dead something. What was the name of that game? Dead something. Dead Estate. That's the game. Dead Estate is one of those, like, kind of difficult games that, you'll see that I'll play sometimes, but it being difficult does not give me a barrier to entry because the skills that you learn are fairly easy to grasp. But on the whole, you won't catch me playing like Dark Souls style games or things of that nature. I don't like the ocean. I don't like the ocean. I don't like the deep water. It scares me. I have thalassophobia. Leave me alone. So a game like, what's that game where you explore the ocean? I forget the name of it. I'm very forgetful. That's the thing that'll happen, is I forget things a lot. So yeah, the games where you explore the deep ocean are my kryptonite. They're horror games for me. Speaking of horror games, I don't like horror games that focus too much on jump scares. I think if you're playing a game to get scared, jump scares are not a substitution for real fear. Real fear is atmospheric. Jump scares can help, right? There's a place for them. I don't think you should get rid of them and everything, but there's just so many games out there that's the entire gimmick is to get jump scared. I also dislike the heat. Your planet is so warm. It's warm all the time, and it's getting warmer, and so I'm too hot. It's too hot over here. Hopefully, we will, always have air conditioning nearby. At the very least, I need it on my ship. It just gets so hot. I don't like toxic player bases, usually. I mean, sometimes I guess they can be funny, but, generally speaking, I don't like to get worked up over things like that. I think toxic player bases chase people out, and the get good mentality is not one of genuine concern for players' enjoyment, but one of just trying to push people out or to promote yourself at the expense of others. I also dislike a lot of cross-series power scaling conversations. I like certain inter-series power scaling conversations, like could Frieza beat Devilman? And if you know anything about those characters, you know why that would be an interesting matchup. However, a lot of them outside of the series is usually pretty useless, like Goku versus Superman. Like, I think there's something that belies what this is actually about, and usually the person who wins these conflicts is not because they had a greater gimmick or anything like that. It's just because the writers wanted them to win, and I know that pulls the sails out of a lot of, pulls the wind out of a lot of people's sails, as the saying goes. But honestly, I think trying to make sense of it. It makes sense as a fan to want to do that, to want to understand the series. It's like, I want to dig deep, and I want to really understand how this works and what makes it work. And a lot of the series want you to do that. Like, for example, if you watch Naruto, Naruto is a series where they want you to dig deep and compare people's powers and understand how different techniques match up differently and stuff like that. Or at least it was. I only watched until the end of Naruto. I haven't watched Boruto. I don't know anything about it, so maybe that's changed. But if it hasn't, then you understand why. But I feel like going like, who win, Goku versus Luffy from One Piece? I don't think those are really good conversations to have. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what is my stream gonna be like on average? Well, let's take a look. So first, obviously, kind of like what we're doing now, I like Zatudans, where I'm just kind of talking, and if you guys want to talk with me, I will of course respond to the things that you want to say to me. I like interacting with you guys, and if we get comfortable enough together to have more Zatudans, I'd like that. Now, of course, I like to take up a lot of devil's advocate positions, but I'm hoping that you won't hold that against me, because sometimes I have to hold up a contrary position in order to, I have to hold up a contrary position in order to keep the conversation going. It doesn't mean that I'm feverishly trying to defeat you. It just means I'm trying to keep the conversation flowing and to test your positions and see where I can press you and if you can push back. Obviously the other half of this is going to be gaming. Now, this is probably going to be more of what I'm going to do early on, just because gaming is so versatile. It's so much fun, and we can talk while we game as well. There's a lot of games that I haven't played that I want to play for my first time with you guys as a streamer. The first one, obviously, will be Mass Effect. That's a game I haven't played. I'm also going to be playing games like Earth Defense Force 5. I like Earth Defense Force 5 a lot, and maybe I'll come up with some interesting challenges to, keep you guys tuned in. But we'll see. I still a lot of things in the air. We'll see what happens. Now, here is my server rules for those of you who are watching, or my VOD guys, if you're watching this later on in my career. Hello there, VOD people. Okay. So the first rule is be kind and respectful. So no slurs, no racism, and no general intolerance. Let's be respectful. No news and no politics. You can get that from lots of different places. You don't need it from me, and you don't need to bring it here. This is a nice place where we're going to have fun together and not worry about things of that nature. No spam or self-promo unless specifically allowed. If I tell you that you can tell us something about yourself or your channels or whatever, then you can do it then. Also, no spoilers. We're going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. I know that's sometimes difficult to do, and it's just more of a suggestion so that you're mindful of it, but accidents happen, This is a say-so stream. We are going to keep everything safe for work. We can, a little bit of spice is fine. A few off-color jokes is okay. But, generally speaking, no, heavy pornographic type stuff, please. Also, don't ask for personal information from others. Respect the anonymity. Everybody here, you shouldn't be giving out your information to anybody, no matter who they are. Okay, so here's my tentative stream schedule. So for now, I've decided I'm going to be streaming twice a week, Sunday at 7 p.m. Central, just like today, and Friday at 7 p.m. Central. So basically, the next stream coming up is going to be Sunday, and then after that, it's going to be Friday. So that's when we're going to have our next gaming session / Zatsudan. There's also the possibility for guerrilla streams on weekends. Like if I just feel like I'm playing a game and I think, people might want to see this, I will stream whatever I've got going on, and I'll try to keep you guys as part of it. Well, I think that about gets it for my stream today. We had a lot of fun. This is a VTuber intro card that I've made, and I kind of filled it out a little bit. Maybe I'll post it somewhere else, but you know, hopefully you guys had a lot of fun. I know I did. We're probably ending about 10 minutes early, but that's okay. I'd like to aim for like at least an hour of a stream of this nature running in the future, and I think that would be probably the sweet spot as far as getting these things to work for streaming purposes. You know, just making sure that there's enough time for us to get to know each other, and then give you time to do other things that you need to do, because I know we're all busy, we've all got stuff. Okay, well, anyway, I guess it's about time for us to go. So I will see you guys on Sunday if you'll have me, and then until then, may the stars be your guide. Have a good one. Bye.